Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Away Games, a Chicago Cubs podcast hosted by two comedians, a job that used to exist in society. We grew up in the Chicago area. Now we live in New York, and Kevin is currently heading back to the Chicago area via his car. I am in New Jersey still. I'm Adam. This intro's been all over the place. But how's it going? I'm Adam Amawala. Who are you? You're Kevin, right?
I am Kevin, but what does that mean, Adam? I'm still trying to figure out who am I, what is in here, what does it mean? I don't know.
Yes, I am told you are Kevin. Time is subjective. Our existence is conditional, and yet here we are talking about the Cubs. A baseball team that still exists and supposedly will be playing some games. If you want to hear our brain thoughts, you can follow us at AwayGamesPod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at awaygamespodcast@gmail.com. But tell us where you're headed. You are heading in the direction of the Cubs right now, are you not?
Yeah, I am. I'm headed toward. I'll be staying at my mom's place in Elmhurst tonight. So I will be driving past, relatively past where the Cubs are playing against themselves. Very, very existential baseball going on right now. It's the Cubs' greatest opponent and technically only opponent right now is themselves. So I'll be in that neighborhood. Did you see anything about the playing themselves? Yeah, I just keep hearing in my head. Charlemagne, was it Charlemagne who said you that?
You played yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of clips on Twitter. Like, it's always kind of cool to see guys hitting against, you know what I mean? Like to see, Kris Bryant at the plate against Yu Darvish is just like an interesting thing visually to see. What have you seen of the footage that you've come across to this point?
Well, I saw that today as we record this, it's recording Tuesday before this goes out on Wednesday, and I saw that Craig Kimbrell got rocked, which is weird right now because it's like good news, bad news. Like Wilson Contreras homered off Kimbrell, so you like to hear that from Wilson, but
right.
Kimbrell, basically picking up where he left off, I guess, but and so I know Kimbrell didn't have his best stuff today, but why would he? I don't think that's too much of an indictment.
Well, I think the kind of, sorry, I was just going to say with Kimbrell, the kind of sad irony is that, like, last year everyone was like, well, clearly we saw that having a weird shortened season didn't work out for him. It'll be nice to have a full normal season, and here we are.
Yeah, and specifically for Kimbrell, he started right around this time last year, right? It's like
right.
He came in right at this time and it didn't work, so it's we're running that back one more time. But on the bright side, the Cubs, bright side and dark side, the Cubs played to a 0-0 draw in their first matchup. But they had the two opening day worthy starters going. Hendricks and Yu shut the Cubs down. They each, I believe, each went 3 and gave up nothing. So that's cool.
Yeah, I can. It is a weird thing because it's like you're happy when a player does something nicely, hitting a home run or whatever, but that was also off of a Cubs pitcher. I will say that it's.
Right.
I would rather see Kimbrell give up bombs to Wilson Contreras than to the Cardinals in a huge series in real life.
Absolutely, yeah. And giving up a bomb to Wilson Contreras is no shameful thing, regardless. So I don't want to make too much of it. And I'm not. I feel like there's a lot of doom and gloom about Kimbrell in general, and I don't share that. I don't think he's probably still arguably the greatest reliever of all time in his prime. Like prime Kimbrell could make an argument for it, but I think he's a very good reliever, and I think he'll be okay if the season happens, which who knows? Kris Bryant and was among many players this week talking about how already MLB is not holding up their end of the bargain when it comes to safety protocol and testing turnaround time, which again, it's hard to know how much to blame MLB for that, really.
Right.
But the players they're not getting the test results in the amount of time that they were told they would. So that sucks. David Ross spoke out about it a little bit. Kris Bryant spoke out about it. Doolittle as well, of course. So, it just, it's, as I sit here talking about my feelings about Kimbrel, you still have the thing where it's like, but is it a season even? I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I do kind of love specifically the name element of Sean Doolittle being somebody who's so active and constantly bringing to our attention how how MLB continues to do very little, as it turns out.
Yes, that's true. They do. Yeah, he's doing the most, really, and MLB is doing not much. And extra great stuff about Rob Manfred sucking ass. I believe it was Mike Rizzo, the GM of the Nationals, who was speaking about the test turnaround time not being up to par. And apparently Manfred was angry about Rizzo saying that and called it insubordination, which is just,
oh boy,
read the room, motherfucker. Like, no one cares about insubordination, about you running an unsafe and incompetent organization to this point. That's no one cares. No one cares about any.
At this point, I'm just waiting for Manfred to come out and be like, I think we should do less tests. I say slow down the testing.
I mean, he wouldn't be, as we know, he wouldn't be the first person in America in an executive position to be saying such a thing. And I would also not be surprised if Manfred was like, actually, the problem is too much testing. We heard that from some other dumb fuck. So, it's whatever. But we can, I feel like Adam, you and I keep going into these episodes, and it's like you try to straddle the baseball and the, talking about, it's all baseball talk because this is all we have to talk about, but it would be fun to be talking more specific player.
Well, I think everything in baseball and in life feels kind of conditional right now. Like, I think any conversation that we have that's like purely about how somebody's performing on the field always is followed by the caveat of like, in a world where the season actually happens, which I think is natural. I feel like if you're a realist, you kind of have to look at it that way.
Yes.
Because when we talk about Kimbrel, like if Kimbrel, let's say Kimbrel is struggling in a world where the full 60-game regular season happens, those blown saves are really going to be magnified. If he blows 2 games in the first 2 weeks of the season, 2 losses mean a lot more when you're only playing 60 games. So, hopefully that doesn't happen. I think my attitude is if the season does get off the ground and games start being played, I know I'm not going to be able to stick to this, but I'm going to try to convince myself to not get too upset about results, which I know is complete bullshit even as it's coming out of my mouth, but just to be grateful that I'm getting to watch the Cubs at all.
Yes, and I would be grateful as well if it works out in an at all sane way. I will also be super grateful to have that to watch from the continual quarantine of the Astoria Queens apartment that I'll be in to watch it. But I think the results, but of course, yes, the results will matter. And it's good that they do because I think we've talked about this too, where after the Cubs won the World Series, we both had a little bit of a, I don't know if worry, but the thought like, will it mean as much going forward now?
Yeah.
And the following year in the playoffs, especially the insane playoff game that you were at in person in Washington, and I was freaking out, at home watching, I remember during that game being like, I'm glad this still feels like life or death to me. It's not life or death when there are life or death things that's happening right now, but I'm saying I'm glad that I still can't help but get too wrapped up in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think that makes perfect sense. And I don't know about you, but I think even before things got really ugly between the players and ownership, I had kind of resigned myself to there just not being any baseball at all this year. So I'm kind of looking at this as I'm, if it happens, I'm happy that anything happened because I had fully accepted that I wouldn't be watching baseball until 2021.
Right. So it all, if it happens, it does feel like a bonus at this point for sure. And we'll see. Mike Trout says he's still not sure if he's going to play. Understandable with the baby on the way. Zach Wheeler in a similar position. Bryce Harper in a similar position. I think Wheeler also said he's not sure if he's going to play. I think Harper's all in. But Nick Markakis has now opted out of the season. Felix Hernandez has opted out this week. So we're starting to see more names that way. Good news on the hybrid baseball disease front is that at the point we're recording this, no Cubs have tested positive. So it seems like they've gotten lucky, and they've also been responsible to this point. So that's good.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, look, for all we know, by the time this drops in less than 24 hours, or certainly by the next episode a week from now, that may have changed. But yeah, I mean, we are starting to see big names added to that list of guys who have tested positive. Freddie Freeman, I think, is probably the biggest name that we've seen so far. My question for you would be, because I was talking to my best friend Adam about Mike Trout, and he was saying that he actually thinks it might be a good thing for baseball if Trout opts out and doesn't play this year, because it would, if somebody of that ilk is doing that, it kind of normalizes being able to do that for other players who might be on the fence about it. Now, granted, he has so much more money than most of these guys that some people are not in the position to do that. And I think that's what we're all dealing with here. Whatever profession you're in is, it would be great to not ever have to work and still have enough money, but most of us, including a lot of baseball players, even though people think they're all millionaires, a lot of people don't have that chance to say, no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in an industry where the career is automatically a lot shorter, and guys don't know how many years they're going to get in the majors, and a prorated season at the league minimum of 500 plus thousand, you prorate that, and if you're someone who only has a 3 or 4 year career, which is closer to what the average is, you're not talking about a lot of lifetime money here, and it's a thing where, I think you would ask a lot of bartenders and servers, do they want to be going back to work right now? No, but if places are opening up, then they can't get unemployment in the same way, and they're sort of forced to make that choice. And that's in a more, it's obviously we're talking about different scale of dollars here, but I do think it's comparable to what we're saying, where if you're wealthy, you can afford. It's easier to afford sitting it out, And I do think if Mike Trout was to sit out, if basically the best non-Barry Bonds baseball player of our lifetimes probably was to sit out the season, then I think it gives everyone, not that they should need cover, but it would give everyone more cover to make that choice.
Yeah. No, I think you're totally right, and I think you bring up a good point in terms of how brief these guys' careers are. The average career of an athlete is very short, even in sports where there's more longevity. So, yes, obviously these guys are making a ton of money, and yes, they are playing a game, but I think that's something that people forget a lot, is that they see these big numbers, or they see $1 million or even $500,000, and in their minds they're like, oh, I would love to make that every year. Like, yeah, but you're not making that every year. You're making that for however long your career is, and it sucks. And look, we've interviewed players via Zoom in their homes, and I'm no disrespect to anybody, but like, they live normal lives. Like, these guys who are not superstar athletes but are breaking into the major leagues, or maybe have a few years under their belt, they own houses, but they're not living in like lavish mansions. They're just people who happen to have a really cool job. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you and I know people like that who like make a good living in comedy or as actors or whatever, but they're not like living like celebrities.
Oh man, I mean, no. And when we're talking about baseball players who have played in the minor leagues for most of their careers, I mean, like, I make more money than minor leaguers for every year of the last 10 years of my comedy career, I think, so it's not, there's a big difference between minor league, major league, obviously. and most of them aren't big bonus dudes unless you're drafted in the first couple of rounds, you know. So yeah, it's a tough decision to make, and everyone's having to, you know, make choices that suck, kind of. But yeah, it's a tough spot. And Kris Bryant was, you know, he was very upfront talking about it, and he also talked about this week about wanting to be a Cub for life and how he would be more open to an extension now than he was before, and that he wants to see he would love to see the core of the Cubs group he came up with just stay together till they're old, gray, and fat, I believe he said. And I think these are all, but he also said, you know, he's not trying to talk about an extension in this moment when there are a lot more important things going on. But I just point this out to say, there's still some people in Cub world who like don't think Kris Bryant really wants to be a Cub or think he's like, I don't know. I just feel like he doesn't get enough credit as a true Cub and as a really forthright guy when he speaks. Like he's more candid than he gets credit for, and you know, put some respect on that guy's name.
I completely agree, and it continues to perplex me that he does not seem to get the kind of respect that he should. It's almost like people kind of made up in their minds that like Rizzo was the guy, or that now like of the newer group, like Javi is the guy, and KB is so good that he's just like taken for granted. I don't know. But then we said the same thing about Rizzo. Either way, it bothers me that there's that kind of like weird narrative around Kris Bryant.
Yeah, and I don't think it's like I think he is loved by the fan base, you know. I think, but probably should be a little more so for whatever that's worth. But
and just hearing that, I mean, I've given a lot of thought to that in terms of like how much this particular group of guys means to me, and of course, like naturally they're going to mean a ton to us because they finally won. But I think they really are a special group of dudes, and I think if you were to ask me right now, and of course this is choosing between two great scenarios, if you were to make me choose between like you can guarantee me that this core group of guys wins one more World Series, or the Cubs are going to win 2 in the next decade, but with a completely different group of people, I think I would prefer the one with this group. Like that's how much I love these guys.
And I feel like I would have to know how much of the core we're swapping out for a second title to make that decision. But I'm vibing with that. You know, it means something to me to win with guys that I have an emotional connection to an affinity for. You know. Like the character. Yeah.
Oh, so go ahead. Sorry.
No, just the character matters in terms of how much I root for a team. You know.
So you're saying if I told you that in this other scenario where the core is not part of it, that team is comprised of the likes of Addison Russell, Aroldis Chapman, and Aubrey Huff coming out of retirement, you're not on board with that?
I'm not on board, and what sucks is 2 of those guys were on the championship team.
It does suck. Yeah, it does suck a lot. But at least not Aubrey Huff.
Yeah. No, not Aubrey Huff. Yes. I mean, I don't want a team of assholes. You know what I mean? Like there's, that does matter to me, and I feel like there have been times when I've been less into the players who made up one of my favorite teams, where I did, you know, sort of tune that team out a little bit more, you know. So it's a great group of dudes. Also, just baseball-wise, speaking of core guys I very much like and believe in this year and going forward, Kyle Schwarber, Kimbrel did strike him out, but on a 9-pitch at bat. So you'll love to see Schwarber battle big stuff like that too. And he wore him down before Bryant singled and Contreras homered off him. So fun lineup.
Speaking of that, that's a very fun lineup. And talking about like Contreras homering off of Kimbrel, there was a clip floating around of Nick Castellanos hitting a bomb off of somebody and then like really going for it, like classic bat flip, like pimping it. And I think he was just joking around, but it occurred to me that like that's one of his teammates that he just like pimped the home run off of. Like that, it's kind of funny.
He was giving no shits and wearing no sleeves, so it was a really good.
You love to see it.
You do love to see it, and god dang it, with the universal DH, how would have been very fun to have Castellanos on this team.
It would have. We'll hope that he hit the bomb off of Trevor Bauer. It's unclear, but
yes.
Yeah, I mean, from what all I saw of the Reds today was Castellanos pimping a home run with no sleeves, and then Joey Votto taking batting practice in another sleeveless shirt that said Black Lives Matter. So I'm all in on the Reds, honestly, even though they're in our division.
Yeah, those two Reds, and I've come around on Amir Garrett too. He's fiery. He and Javi have had their beef, and Javi got the best of him, which is great. But yeah, there's some interesting dudes on the Reds.
Yeah, the Reds are like low key pretty fun. I gotta say, I have to say it. But.
Yeah, I mean, I hope they have a good, great time finishing, second, third, or fourth.
Well, we just have to hope it's not like those weird anomalous, like the first 2 months of the season go really well for the Reds and then they flame out. But if the season's only 2 months, I'll tell you one thing I'm excited about though, and I don't know if you've kind of had this thought as well, but like for us as comedians, I know you're going out to kind of dip your toe into the comedy world again, but like for the most part, we're not going to be doing a lot of shows coming up,
right.
And I'm realizing that like this is if the season is played, I'll be watching a higher percentage of Cubs baseball in these 60 games than I have ever watched as an adult, if not ever.
Yeah, right.
Like I'll watch every inning basically.
Yeah, you could feasibly see them all. That is interesting. Yeah, that speaks to the commitments we have for one thing, but also that could be. I mean, it'd be kind of fun to be able to have an every pitch recollection of a single year, too. I saw that MLB.TV was asking for an insanely high proportion of the total season price for their subscription yesterday, and already I got an offer. 25% knocked off what they announced one day ago. So hopefully that backlash hit him good. But yeah.
So the early feedback to MLB TV not so good.
Yeah, and also that also makes me feel like they are feeling less likely that it's going to happen too. Because it's like I'll wait to order it till the day before or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, if you don't have anything else, I figured we could wrap up talking about the schedule a bit.
Yes. Schedule me, Daddy. Do it.
Oh, I will. So, season opener, theoretically, I'm not going to say theoretically anymore. I'm going to speak as if all of this will happen. It's all happening. Season opener, Friday, July 24th, against the Brewers, ESPN. How you feel about it?
Pretty good.
Wrigley opener, baby. Wrigley opener. Hopefully a few people on the rooftops spaced out. Yeah.
I'm into that. I want to see Hendricks take the mound. I want to, I'm into it. And I believe the next day is also a nationally broadcast game.
Looks like it. It's a Fox. It says Fox. So the 1:00 game on Fox. It seems like it would be. That might be one of those times where like we might get the Yankees or Red Sox. I mean, Yankees or Mets, but like other people. You know what I mean?
Right. That's true.
I do for the ESPN thing. I hope that we're able to get the Len and JD feed because I would hate to have to listen to A-Rod on fucking opening night rather than Len and JD.
Yes. Same. Even if they're not, I mean, I know there's actual like legal broadcast rules against this, but I would wish even if they weren't calling the game officially that they would just open up a Zoom and let us hear them, like to call into their own TVs. would be nice because if it's I don't want an opening day without Len, JD, or Pat and Ron. I want some Cub announcers on this.
Yeah, you got to be able to hear Chicago Cubs baseball is on the air.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So we got 3 against the Brewers. 3 against the Brewers, kick it off. Then we got a 4-gamer at the aforementioned Cincinnati Reds.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got 3 at home against the Pirates. And it's so funny talking about home and away because it really shouldn't matter that much other than familiarity with the field, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, there's not in the typical, top and bottom of the inning advantage, if you consider it an advantage,
Right.
When you're getting last at bat at home, for instance. But yeah, you're not really having the harassment from or energy from a crowd,
You know what I just realized though, which would be really funny. So there was a clip today of David Ross goofing around, reacting to they were testing out the fake crowd noise. It would be very funny if the volume that the crowd noise would be dictated by average attendance. If the Cubs got to use a 10, but the Marlins only could go up to 2 on the volume.
Right, yeah. And if it was authentic, if when the Cubs go to Milwaukee, they pipe in 60% Cub noise, pro Cub audience in Milwaukee.
Or that the Astros just have to get booed everywhere.
Yeah, yes, no matter what. Yeah.
Got to just pipe in some boos.
Yeah, we should be consultants on this.
I think so. I think it's a reasonable pitch. I'm sure Manfred will be open to it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I'm going to run through it here. So we got 3 against the Brewers,
Do it.
4 at Cincinnati, 3 against the Pirates, a little home and away action against the Royals, so 2 in Chicago, 2 in Kansas City. It'll be nice to play the Royals. They are bad. Then we got 3 at St. Louis, one of which is a Sunday night baseball game. Monday is an off day. Then we got 2 at the Indians. That'll be fun, playing in the site of World Series lore. We've got
and possibly the last season of quote unquote Indians history, as the team name looks like it's going to be changing.
It really should be. It's amazing to me that the Redskins still exist as a team and that's been okay somehow. One of my favorite Onion articles that they recycle because unfortunately they're able to is Washington Redskins finally agreed to change name to DC Redskins.
Yes. Right. Take away the other offensive part.
So okay, we got home and away against Royals, 3 at the Cardinals, off day, 2 at the Indians. 4-gamer against the Brewers, that's in Wrigley. So 4 against the Brewers, 3 against the Cardinals, off day, 3 against the White Sox. So that's a 10-game homestand. Then 3 at the Tigers, who are also bad, off day, 3 at the Reds, off day, 3 at the Pirates, 4 against the Cardinals, 3 against the Reds. You're seeing a lot of the team names. I think you're sensing a trend here. 3 at the Brewers, off day, home against the Indians for 2, off day, home against the Twins, at the Pirates, and at the White Sox to end the season on the road, but also kind of at home in Chicago.
I mean, it's because you certainly anticipate that this division is going to be extremely tight with 4 quality teams and all just playing each other all year, basically. That could be a very intense last couple games that really matter against the White Sox. That could be a very intense end of year.
It definitely could be, and I am kind of bummed that at least for this season they didn't go with the expanded playoffs. Because there are going to be really good teams who miss out on the playoffs just because of the weird short season.
Yeah, this is the one time I would have been fine with expanded playoffs. I'm very anti-expanded playoffs in general, but yeah, I think this year it would have made sense because of how random the year is going to be anyway. A playoff series is equivalent to a relatively significant portion of the year. So I think having more playoff series would have been a fine way to do things,
Well, yeah, and that's a really interesting point is that, like, obviously the playoff series theoretically are going to be just as long as they ordinarily would be, which means if in the LCS or the World Series you have a 7-game series, those 7 games are more than 10% of what the regular season was.
Yeah, exactly. And it also just makes the forced 1-game playoff to me even weirder. Like, what are we doing here?
But, I mean, it could make for some interesting stuff. I mean, imagine, the Yankees or the Dodgers or somebody miss the playoffs. I don't see it happening, but it could happen.
No, but it could. I mean, everyone knows the Nationals were 19-31 after 50 games last year, and they won the whole thing. So that could definitely, could definitely happen. Also, with this few games, it feels like there's an added chance that there would just be like 4 teams tied for the wild card, and then it would just be a real fucking weirdo round robin 1-game playoff situation. So, I think we're both on board with this season. If it can happen, great, and bring on the chaos. Let's just, I don't care about the chaos this year. Like, whatever, get weird, make it weird. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with that. And I think even in a scenario where the Cubs won the World Series, it would never feel quite the same as winning a World Series after playing 162 games, but would still be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It would not feel quite the same, but it'd feel pretty good. And, I'll fucking count it. And, your percentage, your chance of winning the World Series is no greater or less than it is in a longer season. It's the same number of teams with 1 winner. So you're still the winner out of all those teams, Unless it's a team we hate, and then it doesn't count.
Yes.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And definitely if it's the Astros, it doesn't count.
No, for sure.
I mean, historically, though, in election years that people consider to be the bar for how bad a year can be, the Cubs have a very good track record.
Oh, in a great track record in years where the election goes bad?
Well, just in years, because remember how I'm saying that 2016 used to be like the punchline for how bad a year could be, which clearly has been ousted by 2020. But I'm saying that, if that's a trend that was set in 2016 with most of life is awful, but the Cubs win the World Series, I guess we could be looking at that again.
Yeah, and I think 2016 gets a bad rap because I think it was good for most of it, and then I know 2019 sucked ass, but I don't even remember why at this point. I think it would be a perfect time for the Cubs to swing around 4 years later and do it again.
Yeah, and that could be, I'm on board with the Cubs winning a World Series every 4 or 5 years like the Red Sox have done for the past 2 decades. So if we can start that as a trend, I'm here for it.
Yeah. I'm all about it too. But sounds good. Fun to see a schedule,
It is, even just to look at and to dream of.
Right.
Do you have any parting thoughts here?
Absolutely not. Just add Away Games Pod on Twitter, add Away Games Pod on Instagram. Follow us in those places. Holler at us. If you got time to kill and you haven't heard our interview series with players that we were doing in the last couple of months, go check those out. My personal fave is Rob Zastryzny, although they're all great. But Zastryzny, if we're talking about 2016 right now, gives you stories I've never heard anywhere else. If people haven't heard that interview yet, go get it.
Totally. And you know what that's reminding me? He had a great description of what it was like being at the parade that I think I never ended up putting up that clip specifically. So maybe I'll do a fun little TBT to happier times this week.
I'm into it.
Yeah,
that
absolutely. At Away Games Pod on Twitter and Instagram, as Kevin said. Safe travels, Kevin. We will be back next week with probably slightly better audio quality, but it's weird times. Everybody's a bit forgiving these days.
Everyone's fine.
That's it.
Yeah.
We're all doing our best. What more can we do? We're all hanging on by a thread. Have a good week, everybody.